The pines are a stately group of conifers found throughout New Brunswick, growing wherever there is sun and well-drained soils. Our three species, the eastern white pine, the red pine, and the jack pine, are all valuable species to wildlife, and all fill their own unique ecological niches. Unlike our other conifer trio, the spruces, pines are relatively easy to ID both as a group and individual species. Eastern white pine is the largest, most common, and most well-known pine species in New Brunswick. They regularly grow 90 to 100 feet tall and 2 to 3 feet across, and our largest known trees reach 130 feet tall and 4 to 5 feet across, the largest trees in the province. Eastern white pines have medium shade tolerance and grow best in deep, well-drained soils. However, they can also grow in boggy areas and exposed rocky areas. They reach their greatest dominance on steep, sandy, south-facing river valley slopes, and under these conditions they will often form nearly pure stands of very tall individuals. These pines can generally live 200 to 300 years, but some can reach up to 500 years in age. Common associates include northern red oak, eastern hemlock, eastern hop hornbeam, and other pine species. Eastern white pine can be told apart from other pines by its bark, cones, and needles. Their needles are long and flexible, 3 to 5 inches long, and borne in clusters of 5. Both other native pines have needles in clusters of 2. Jack pine has short 1 to 1.5 inch long needles, and red pine has much longer, brittle needles, generally at 6 to 7 inches long. Eastern white pines, unlike our other pines, drop large amounts of needles, often forming an orange carpet on the ground below them. Their slender cones are the largest of any native conifer, generally 5 to 7 inches long. Our other pines have stockier cones that are usually only half the size of white pine cones. Eastern white pines start with light gray-green, smooth bark, which begins to split early in the tree's life. As the tree ages, the bark turns ashy gray or grayish-brown, and the splits progressively get deeper. Old trees may have fissures up to 2 inches deep. Eastern white pine has a very distinctive silhouette with irregular, bushy branches and a rounded top. With experience, you can identify eastern white pine from kilometers away by its shape alone. A huge variety of animal, plant, and fungi species call eastern white pine forests home. Their seeds are popular with American red squirrels, and many birds such as pine siskins, brown creepers, and pileated woodpeckers thrive in eastern white pine forests. Dead and or hollow trees provide valuable wildlife habitat for species such as porcupines and raccoons. Many edible mushroom species, such as chanterelles, porcini, and scilluses, associate with eastern white pine, and I believe they are one of the most important trees for mushroom hunters to learn. Pine drops, an extremely rare and endangered species in New Brunswick, live exclusively in old eastern white pine forests. They parasitize false truffle mushrooms, which only live in association with the roots of eastern white pine in New Brunswick. Historically, eastern white pines grew upwards of 180 feet tall. However, most were cut for use in shipbuilding in past centuries, and very few of this size remain today. New Brunswick's tallest confirmed tree is a 130-foot tall eastern white pine. However, there are rumors of 160-plus foot specimens in steep ravines in the south of the province. Get out to the woods, and perhaps you could find New Brunswick's new record holder. Red pine is New Brunswick's least common pine species, seen more often in landscaping and plantations than its natural habitat. In the wild, it grows in sandy soils and rocky outcrops, reaching heights of 70 to 80 feet and diameters of 1 to 2 feet. Red pines generally live between 200 and 300 years. However, exceptional specimens can live beyond 400 years. Common associates include other pines, birches, aspens, and balsam fir. Red pine's easiest ID feature is its long, brittle needles, which are borne in clusters of 2. These needles are generally 6 to 7 inches long compared to the 3 to 5 inch long, flexible, 5-clustered needles of eastern white pine and the 1 to 1.5 inch long, flexible needles of jack pine. Red pine cones are short and stocky, 1.5 to 2.5 inches long, and are half the size of eastern white pine cones. Jack pine cones are a similar size and shape, however they usually have a distinctive curve, which red pine lacks. Red pine bark starts out reddish-brown and flaky, and the bark gets grayer and develops thicker flakes as the tree ages. Old trees will develop large, reddish-gray plates with deep furrows between them. Red pine also has a unique silhouette it can be identified by. They have a sparser canopy than white pine, and will often appear to have separate clumps of needles along their branches, rather than one dense, continuous mass of foliage on each branch like eastern white pine does. Red pine is an important timber species, being used for things like lumber, pulp, and utility poles. Red pine on its own is not particularly important to wildlife. However, it helps provide valuable tree cover on tough, rocky, or sandy sites, where few other tree species can thrive. This species is commonly used in landscaping for its fast growth and attractive form, and makes a great addition to any native planting. Jack pine is New Brunswick's smallest pine species, growing on average 30 to 50 feet tall and 6 inches to 1 foot in diameter. Jack pine is a pioneer species, growing fast and being highly shade intolerant. However, they live longer than most pioneer species, up to 200 years. They thrive on acidic, nutrient-poor, sandy or rocky soils, where they have little competition for sun. Jack pine is adapted to periodic forest fires, as their cones are held shut with a resin that doesn't melt until it reaches 50 degrees Celsius. A fire will destroy the current jack pine stand, however the freshly released seeds will land in perfect sunny conditions, and because of their fast growth, a new stand will be established within 10 years. This unique life cycle causes jack pines to often form large, pure stands. However, other species such as gray birch, paper birch, aspens, and red pine may also be found among them. Jack pine can be easily told from our other pines by its short, two-clustered needles that are only 1 to 1.5 inches long. Our other native pines will generally have needles at least 3 inches long and often larger. Jack pine bark starts out gray with irregular flakes, which arrange into loose vertical ridges in middle age. In old trees, these flakes thicken into loose, vertically oriented plates, looking similar to red spruce bark. The cracks in the bark may have an orangish hue, however the bark will never develop bright orange sections. Jack pine cones are small, 1 to 2 inches long, and have a distinct curve, a feature not found in any other pine in New Brunswick. Jack pine silhouette is much more irregular than our other two pines, as their trunks are not usually perfectly straight and their branches are sparse. Like red pine, their needles are sparse and appear to form clumps on the branch rather than one continuous mass of foliage. However, jack pine needles are only 1/3 the size of red pine needles. Jack pine can be confused with the non-native Scots pine, however there are several key differences. The main difference in the two trees' needles is that the needles of Scots pine are much more bluish-green. Jack pine bark is gray, sometimes with orangey-brown cracks and flakes. Scots pine bark has bright orange cracks and flakes, and in older trees the entire upper portion of the trunk may be orange. Jack pine cones are curved and have a relatively smooth exterior, while Scots pine cones usually aren't curved and have a much more angular, diamond-patterned exterior. Jack pine stands provide a unique habitat for several animal, plant, and fungi species. Red squirrels, grouse, and grosbeaks eat the seeds, and several insects such as the jack pine sawfly and jack pine budworm feed on the needles. Many plants such as sweet fern, Labrador tea, sheep laurel, and blueberries thrive in and around jack pine stands. On rocky barrens and mountainsides, jack pine can form unique shrub savannas, with stunted, widely spaced jack pines and a dense understory dominated by sheep laurel and Labrador tea. A large number of unique fungi call jack pine forests home, including shingled hedgehog mushrooms, pine spikes, and matsutake. The pines are some of the most charismatic trees in New Brunswick, and everyone should learn to identify these unique trees. Across our province in the river valleys, mountainsides, sandy slopes, and barrens, a pine species of some sort will await you.